This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're looking at yet another HTC phone. They've had quite a few lately. This one, well, it should look very familiar. It's the HTC One E8, and it's the same as the M8 for most intents and purposes, except it has a polycarbonate back. Soft touch finish here on the Mist Gray model. We're looking at the Sprint Edition. We're going to check it out now. So this is the HTC One E8. Not to be confused with the M8, though they're awfully similar. $99 on contract for this one on Sprint. This is a Sprint edition of the phone, and $499 off contract full retail. So for those of you who are buying on contract, well, that's half the price. Basically, it's $100 off whether it's on contract or if it's full retail. So what are you losing? Well, no metal body. Instead, it's polycarbonate unibody. Otherwise, the same kind of design. Really, actually, a very good looking and good feeling phone. I like this mist gray one with the soft touch finish. It's also available in polar white, which I assume is going to be gloss because usually white phones are. They pick up a lot of dirt otherwise, but feels great in hand. So for those of you who like the HTC One M8, thought it was a little bit more than you can afford, and you weren't totally in love and wanting it for the aluminum unibody design. I know for some of you that's the whole point of the phone. For others, you like HTC Sense, you like the other features on the phone, and that's the big thing. Me, I like it just fine. Not as slippery. Also a little bit lighter, almost an ounce lighter. Hair thicker, I mean hundredths of a millimeter, so not much of a difference there. And on the back, we have a traditional 13 megapixel camera instead of the duo camera that's the 4 megapixel equivalent ultra pixel camera that HTC's been using on the One M8. For me, that's not really a bad thing because the ultra pixel camera is not one of my favorites. The whole duo idea to create a sense of depth in the image, it's more of a gimmick. And I like images that I can not just really use big pictures of on a website, but sometimes you take a picture of something and you want to crop it, and you notice how jaggy things look when you've only got a 4 megapixel equivalent. With 13 megapixels, you got more, obviously, pixels going on. There's more room for cropping. Pictures look a bit sharper. You don't get the same low light sensitivity, though, that you do with the ultra pixel camera because the sensor sites are smaller. We'll show you some sample pictures. It's actually not that bad in low light, and the flash, instead of being the two-tone, duotone flash, it's a single bright flash. It does the job quite well. We took a picture in a dark indoor setting that we'll show you, and it looks pretty good. Other than that, you're losing the IR remote, the AV blaster to control your home theater gear. The power button here is centered instead of off to the side, and it's just a metal button. It's not a IR window at the same time. So for those of you who like controlling your home theater gear with your phone, that is something you won't be able to do here. Other than that, you're looking at the same phone. We have the same 5-inch Super LCD Full HD display here. We have the tap to wake function on the screen as well. Nice a screen as always, as you could hope for. HTC BoomSound stereo speakers here, the same ones that you get on the One M8. 2.3 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 CPU. That's quad core with Adreno 330 graphics. 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage. The phone does have expandable storage. It has a micro SD card slot, same as the M8 version. You have your SD card slot on one side, poke it out with the pin kind of thing to get to it. On the other side, we have our Nano Slim socket, and it's compatible with cards up to 128 gigs. So for those of you who want to carry a lot of movies or a lot of music with you, you can, despite the, well, not real exciting amount of internal storage. 16 gigs is nice. 32 would have been even nicer. But for a $99 phone, hey, not bad. Especially when it has the usual flagship processor inside, 2 gigs of RAM, by the way, and just HTC's overall excellent performance. Android KitKat 4.4 here with HTC Sense 6 software. So we're not going to go over this in great detail. It is the same as the HTC One M8 in terms of software, in terms of screen, in terms of processor. Dual band Wi-Fi, 802.11n. According to HTC, which is odd, not listed as AC, which would be part of the usual Snapdragon 801 chipset. Take it with a grain of salt. They could be wrong there on their website. Bluetooth 4.0. It has their usual aptX for Bluetooth. NFC on here. GPS with GLONASS. Also the same 5 megapixel front camera for really nice high resolution selfies, and perhaps even more importantly, higher quality video chats. A fast f2.8 lens there, so lets plenty of light in. Does a much better than average job. So if you're tired of looking what kind of crappy when you're doing Skype or whatever your favorite video chat platform is, you're going to look a lot nicer. Let people see your beautiful mug. Back to that back camera again, f2.2 fast lens there. Both front and rear have backside illuminated sensors. Back camera can shoot 1080p video, not 4K video. Sorry about that. And to look at the camera application, it's going to look the same, and you get HTC Zoe here besides. And we've got it set up with our favorite Ernie the Bath toy here. Easy to use, obvious shutter button. You want to switch between dual capture right here, video, regular camera, selfie mode, panorama, Zoe. You got your choices right there. More settings, tooltips there too. ISO, EV, white balance, all the various settings and effects. You got your sepia, you got all sorts of things going on there. You get the idea. You go retro, vintage look, vignette, dots. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but it's there too. Depth of field, and so on. And we'll just go with our regular normal shot. Take a picture. Focusing is quite quick on this. You can tap to focus if you want to as well. And let's take a look at some pictures that we've taken. Obviously, the bath toy will not be the most exciting thing here. But as we go through cloudy day outside, now the camera does have HTC's usual problem of blowing out the highlights. On a cloudy day, much less of a problem. You can still see it's pretty bright to the point where the sky is white there instead of more like a gray, but that isn't too bad. And there is a good deal of detail as we zoom in. That's the nice thing about having 13 megapixels, a lot more sharpness, a lot more data for those of you who need to zoom and crop or just use these in larger format than teeny little, say, Twitter pictures or something like that. Did a pretty good job here, and the areas in the shadows are a little darker than they should be. Sometimes it tends to underexpose. You can also adjust your EV setting if you want to compensate for that, but you can see details visible all the way to the back there. Again, I don't mind having the 13 megapixels at all. An indoor shot of our wonderful gnome taken with the flash in a fairly dark room on obviously it's been a very cloudy day, and we get some painterly effect here on the surface textures in low light. So versus the ultra pixel, you probably get something a little bit sharper, but that's still actually not bad at all for a fairly dark room that's depending on the rear LED flash. So not too bad. Now, Sprint's been catching a lot of flack for their less than stellar data network, and if you're unfortunate enough to fall back on their 3G EVDO Rev A network, it's still going to be, well, pretty sad pickings. But here in Dallas on their LTE network, where often we only have 1 bar of signal, we've still got pretty respectable data speeds that are actually been going up here now for the past 4 months or so. So they are certainly doing work on their network. Here with 1 bar, also with 1 bar, these two lower results right there, that's pretty respectable. And up here we had 2 bars where we have almost 21 megabit per second download speeds. Now what's really interesting is Sprint's Spark network. That's their version of something like XLTE. They've got 3 channels going on LTE, so they can channel bond and get you some wide bandwidth coverage there. That is the highest number I have ever seen on an actual regular out there in the wild cell tower. This is not some special setup to look good or at some field test location. That's actually what we got with full signal strength here in the Dallas Metroplex area. 75 megabit per second, really insane. And even the upload speeds are pretty good there, between 12, 12.8 or so. So on the upswing there. Voice quality also quite good on this. Sometimes we notice on Sprint it kind of sounds robotic and digitized. This phone sounds very nice and clear. And that's calling to a regular phone. Now Sprint does have HD voice, so if you're calling from one Sprint HD voice enabled phone to another, you get that. But if you're just calling, say, something at AT&T or calling a landline, you won't get that. So even then, it still sounds quite good. Not bad at all. And by the way, the phone also supports Wi-Fi calling too. Take that, T-Mobile. Now, Sprint has bloatware in abundance, and some things you might actually enjoy. Like we have Spotify here for streaming radio, and we've got Sprint Zone. You can manage your account and stuff like that. But you can see all of this stuff is stuff that they installed. We have the family wall for Sprint. We've got Plus Messages. They pre-install Amazon, eBay, Next Radio. More Sprint apps in a folder over here. App Pass, featured apps that they're selling you on. NBA Game Time Scout, which is basically navigation, Sprint Movies and TV, Sprint Music Plus, Sprint Money Express, One Weather, NASCAR, look at mobile security, which is finding its way on all sorts of phones, sort of your antivirus protection software. So a lot of bloatware on Sprint phones, but this is no different than any other Sprint phone in that respect. That is just par for the course for what Sprint's doing. Other than that, again, what you've got here is the same as on the HTC One M8. Same very simple light touch on Android. You've got your app drawer that scrolls up and down. You can access the Google Play Store right there. Of course, we have all the Google apps that are on board. Home screen, yes, with BlinkFeed, which we have not set up here. We can just tap it to get started. You choose some content. You just do it like so. Maybe I want to see Zoe right there. Sure, that sounds great. Love my cars. Tell me about that. Yeah, how about a little lifestyle? And we're doing this over Sprint's LTE network with just 1 bar of signal. We do not have Wi-Fi turned on. So there's your BlinkFeed. I now have all sorts of awesome car content there. Isn't it nice to see a Corvette and other fun cars right there on the home screen? And if you don't like BlinkFeed, you can always also disable it and just go with your regular Android home screens right here. And let's listen to those BoomSound speakers. We have the YouTube app going right here. We'll look at our HTC Desire 610 review. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at phone. It sounds pretty darn good. It's available on AT&T United States. This is the HTC Desire 610. You know, I've always thought that the Desire series was kind of... Also looks nice, too. Now again, just like the HTC One M8, it is one of the fastest phones, quadrant score on Tutu, all that sort of thing, top notch, and I'll tell you what those scores are right now. Quadrant, the score is 24,357 on Tutu, 44,596. 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited Test, 18,276. Sun Spider, the WebKit browser we use for this JavaScript test, 612, where lower numbers are better, and 500 is about the best we ever see. 1900 is on the poor end there. So same scores on the HTC One M8, pretty much the same as the Samsung Galaxy S5. You're getting as fast as it gets right now until the Snapdragon 805s start hitting the market anyway. You know how that is. Things always get faster and faster as we move along. Battery inside, also the same 2600 milliamp battery sealed inside. This may be polycarbonate instead of metal, but it's still a unibody design. Not something you can take the back off of yourself. Micro USB port on the bottom. Right there, we got our headphone jack as well. And slight changes on the sides here. The volume controls are so subtle, you almost can't see them, but they're right there. They're tactile enough and clicky enough that they get the job done even if you almost can't see them at all. And again, as we said, the power button is centered up top. It is metal. It is not an IR window, and there is nothing on this side, of course, except for if you use the little pokey hole thing there to get your SIM card and your micro SD card slot out from there. So there it is for those of you who like the HTC One M8 and you could care less about the metal body. Well, this one's worth looking at. And personally, I think the camera is not a compromise over the 4 ultra-pixel camera on the HTC One M8. And for the TV and AV remote control, well, that's up to you. I'm not sure how many of you actually use that feature. It's pretty handy. It's pretty cool, but I'm not sure if that's a deal breaker either. So that's the HTC One E8. It's available now on Sprint in the United States. Your choice of Polar White or Mist Gray, the one we have right here. And it's half the price on contract of the HTC One M8 Android phone. So $99 versus $199. If you like the polycarbonate back, if you weren't in love with the metal, hey, why not save some money unless you're really dying to have that TV remote control. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review and hit that like button.